Station EOS Halo creaked when it shouldn't have. Not a dangerous creak, more like a cranky sigh from an ancient mechanical beast forced to host yet another interstellar guest who didn't wipe their boots. Somewhere in the maintenance duct above Docking Ring C, a cleaning drone whirred in resignation and tried to dislodge a pair of mystery socks that had fused with the vent's interior over time and heat. The intercom buzzed. All personnel, brace for arrival protocol. Incoming vessel, the Wraith of Narji. Repeat, brace for... Okay, no one's actually bracing, but just act nervous or something. She's on approach. Down in engineering, subdeck 2, Juno Miles hit his head on the underbelly of a faulty water recycler and swore in 6 languages, only one of which was official. A droplet of coolant dribbled down his neck. He wiped it off with the sleeve of a jumpsuit that had seen better decades. She? He muttered, crawling out from under the machine. That's a lot of drama for a pronoun. He didn't need to ask who. The whole station had been buzzing about it since last rotation. Meryl of the Veiled Moons, the Star Reaper, the Eater of Empires. Also reportedly, someone who once made a bounty hunter cry just by folding her arms. Juno, meanwhile, had made someone cry once by attempting karaoke at a staff party. It was not the same. He trudged toward the viewport elevator, stopping only to grab his mug of synth coffee, which was more foam than fluid and tasted like a broken promise. He took a sip and gagged anyway, out of ritual. The elevator made a cheerful chime and took him up to the docking platform with the enthusiasm of a creature that hated its job but liked watching people suffer. The hangar bay lights dimmed. All conversation stopped. Even the station cat, a semi-sentient fuzzball named Commander Fuzzbucket, froze mid-prowl and hissed. A sleek black ship pierced the outer field, gliding forward with the soundless menace of a shark dipped in silk. The hull shimmered with reactive alloy, fractal runes glimmering faintly along its sides. Juno slurped his coffee loudly. Aboard the Wraith, the airlock hissed. The first thing out was silence. The second thing was her. She stepped onto the deck with the kind of grace that made people forget their knees existed. Tall, glacial, and utterly still, her figure wrapped in armor that pulsed faintly like it had a heartbeat of its own. Long silver hair fell over pointed ears, elegantly curved and unmistakably alien, though her face, her posture, even the way she blinked, was all too human. The commanding officer of the docking bay did the logical thing. He fainted. Juno blinked, then took another sip. Huh. So the fainting thing wasn't just a meme. She turned her head. Their eyes met. Something passed between them. An instant, maybe less. Her expression didn't change. He smiled. You're beautiful. It wasn't planned. He hadn't been thinking. That was his usual state of existence. But the words came out anyway. Warm and awkward like most things he said. A stillness fell, deeper than before. Weapons didn't raise. No one dared. Meryl stared at him like he'd grown extra limbs. Slowly, one eyebrow arched. Excuse me. Her voice was smoke wrapped in steel. I said, you're beautiful, Juno repeated, raising his mug slightly in a salute, in a terrifying, don't vaporize me kind of way. Her lips didn't move. Her ears twitched once. Then she stepped forward. Every breath in the room was held hostage. Juno stood his ground because his knees had decided that any escape attempt would be worse. She stopped just in front of him. He was close enough to see that her armor wasn't metal, more like some kind of woven tech fabric, seamless and soft around the edges. Close enough to see that her eyes weren't just violet. They held entire nebulae inside. You're not afraid, she said, tone unreadable. Oh, I'm terrified, he said. I'm just also too sleep-deprived to process that properly. Plus, this coffee might be radioactive. So if I die, at least let it be quick. She blinked. You are either brave or a fool. I get that a lot. She looked at his mug. You offered me this. Technically, yeah, want it? Is it poisoned? Only by corporate negligence. A pause, then, slowly, almost reluctantly, she took the mug. Juno thought he might faint next, just out of social overload. She sniffed it. Her nose wrinkled slightly. I will not drink this. Smart choice. The docking officers began to stir. Someone on the upper catwalk took a cautious breath. A drone, confused by the emotional temperature of the room, began to recite motivational quotes at random. Juno and Meryl stood in the center of it all, surrounded by confusion and barely contained awe. She handed the mug back. "Your compliment," she said slowly, "was sincere?" "Yeah. Why?" He shrugged. "You looked like you needed one." Her head tilted. "I have obliterated ships with my thoughts." "Wow. Did any of them say you had great hair?" Her lips twitched. Barely. Like a ghost of a smirk trying to figure out if it was allowed. A nearby comms unit exploded with static. The station AI, a paranoid bundle of code named SARCASTIC7, crackled through the speakers. "Reminder, complimenting Apex-tier alien threats may void your insurance. Have a nice day." Juno gave the ceiling a thumbs up. Meryl turned away without a word and began to walk down the corridor, her footsteps soundless even on metal. People parted like shadows, unsure whether they should run or offer snacks. She didn't look back, but as she passed the edge of the viewport, her ear twitched again. The movement was subtle, deliberate. Juno stood there for a long moment. He felt something shift in the room, like the gravity had changed just slightly, to make room for something new. Eventually, he turned and walked back to engineering. He had coolant to replace, bolts to tighten, and now, apparently, the beginnings of a galactic incident brewing over lukewarm coffee and an impulsive compliment. His life had just gotten much more complicated and weirder, which in his opinion was a step up from boring. 2 days passed and Meryl didn't leave the station. This wouldn't have been notable if it weren't for the fact that Meryl never stayed anywhere more than 6 hours. Theories bloomed like mold in the break room fridge. She's scouting the place before turning it into a crater. She's recharging her dread core. She's dating that guy from engineering. That last one spread fastest. Juno was unaware of the rumor until the mess hall sandwich printer refused to serve him. User temporarily restricted due to romantic entanglement with station threat level entity. The screen blinked. He sighed. "I didn't even get her number." The printer gave him a passive-aggressive beep. Back in engineering subdeck 2, he wiped his hands on his jumpsuit and stared at the console interface, pretending to care about the coolant diagnostics. No matter how many times he rerouted the thermal conductors, his thoughts wandered back to the docking bay, back to the soundless footsteps, the twitch of her ears, the way she hadn't vaporized him. That counted for something. He was so deep in thought he didn't hear the door open behind him. "You connected the inductor coils wrong." Juno spun, smacking his elbow on the console. "Ow! Ow! Oh, hey!" Meryl stood just inside the threshold, arms folded, long coat motionless despite the drafty hum of the ventilation system. She looked as usual like she'd just walked off a poster titled, "How to End a Star War in One Look." Her ears twitched. "I could smell the thermal imbalance in the corridor," she said. "That's either impressive or mildly terrifying." "Your repair methods are crude." "I use what works. I once fixed a drive core with chewing gum and a prayer." She walked over, crouched, and examined the wiring beneath the terminal. Her fingers moved with the precision of a concert pianist disarming a bomb. "You crossed the phase conduits. This would have caused a minor explosion." "Minor? For me? Well, I'm glad my public humiliation is keeping you entertained." "I am not entertained," she said. "Ah, of course. You're coldly observing my incompetence." "Yes," he grinned. "Still hanging around, though." "I require resources from the station." "Sure. The universal excuse of all mysterious, beautiful interstellar women." She looked up. "You are mocking me." "Just a little. It's part of my charm." "You have charm." "That's what my mom said." Once, possibly sarcastically. She stood again, brushing imaginary dust from her gloves. "I will require access to the lower bay. Your override codes." Juno hesitated. "That's a restricted area." "I am aware." "Right. Of course you are." She waited. He stared at the panel, then at her, then back. He rubbed his jaw thoughtfully. "You know what? Fine. On one condition." She didn't move. "You join me for lunch. No death threats, no cryptic warnings. Just a meal." A pause. She tilted her head. "You are bargaining with me." "Technically, I'm bribing you, but in a charming way." That word again. Look, the cafeteria has this pudding. Lime-flavored, probably synthetic, possibly sentient. It's a station tradition. You haven't really been here until you've eaten something that might eat back. She stared. I do not consume gelatinous substances. Perfect. More for me. Her eyes narrowed. Agreed. One meal, then access. He gave her the code. She memorized it instantly. Of course she did. Lunch happened in the auxiliary observation lounge, mostly because the cafeteria was full of people pretending not to watch them. Juno picked the most isolated spot and laid out 2 trays, his filled with things of questionable nutritional value, hers empty. I didn't bring anything for you, he said. I assumed you'd decline on principle. I do not eat in public. Classic first date energy. This is not a date. Denial, also classic. She stared at his pudding cup like it had personally insulted her ancestors. He poked it with his spoon. See? Still jiggly. That means it's fresh or haunted. She blinked. Is it always green? Depends on your definition of green. He took a bite and visibly regretted it. Still good. You lied. Habit. Also, I might be losing feeling in my tongue. Meryl studied him. You have no fear. Oh, I do. I'm just emotionally constipated. I do not know what that means. Then I'm definitely not explaining it. They sat in relative silence for a moment. The stars spun lazily past the lounge windows, indifferent and infinite. She spoke again. You are not what I expected. Most people say that after I fix their plumbing and accidentally reroute their shower to the waste disposal tank. I expected weapons, not jokes. He shrugged. Yeah, well, humor's my shield. Not nearly as cool as kinetic armor, but it's cheaper and smells less like ozone. You are aware I could destroy you. Totally. That's part of the thrill. You are very strange. And you're still here. Another pause. Her eyes lingered on him longer this time. I do not understand why. Maybe you're curious. I do not get curious. You're currently asking questions. You have the tone. I do not have a tone. You've got a tone. She didn't answer, but her lips twitched again. Almost a smile. Almost. He offered her the spoon. She took it, and in a moment so surreal he swore he'd never tell anyone, she dipped it into the pudding and took a small bite. Her face remained blank, but she slowly, very deliberately, set the spoon down like it had betrayed her. That was unwise. Yeah, it's an acquired taste, like radio static or regret. She stood slowly. I will inspect the lower bay now. Try not to disintegrate anything. No promises. She left with the same soundless grace, coat trailing behind like a comet's tail. Juno watched her go, then leaned back in his chair and sighed. She's warming up, he muttered, or plotting my slow demise. One of those. The pudding trembled ominously. He took another bite anyway. There was a report due. Technically, there were 9. One of them was blinking on Juno's terminal like an angry raccoon trapped in a data cube. The station AI, SARCASTIC7, had begun leaving increasingly passive-aggressive reminders in his inbox. One even included a GIF of a neutron star imploding with the caption, "Your productivity curve." He was trying to ignore it. Not out of laziness, though that helped, but because he was currently busy rerouting power away from the lower bay's containment fields. The same lower bay Meryl had been using as her personal workspace since she declared, without consultation, that it was sufficient for subquantum integration testing. Juno wasn't entirely sure what that meant. He was only 90% sure integration didn't involve parts of the station getting atomized. Still, she hadn't blown anything up yet. Progress. He descended the access ladder into Bay 4B, wearing protective goggles, 2 backup multi-tools, and a fireproof poncho, just in case. As he reached the bottom, a soft thrumming filled the air, like the bass line of a song the universe didn't want you to hear. Meryl stood at the center of a repurposed launch pad, surrounded by a constellation of hovering orbs. They rotated around her, blinking with unreadable patterns. A few looked like they could sprout limbs and recite epic poetry if they felt like it. She was holding a plasma core between her palms as if it were a snow globe. I brought snacks, Juno said, holding up a bag of stasis-sealed protein crisps. She didn't look up. I do not require nourishment. They're dill-flavored. Now she looked up. I do not require dill-flavored nourishment. Yeah, nobody does. But sometimes life just gives you weird chips, and you pretend they're edible. She said nothing. The plasma core pulsed. The hovering orbs shifted in pattern. One of them turned briefly to flash a red dot at Juno. I think that one's judging me. It analyzes ambient biometrics. So it is judging me. You have elevated cortisol levels. I'm standing next to someone who has vaporized warships with her mind. That's normal. She turned back to the core, gesturing slightly. A ripple of violet light passed through the orbs, which then receded into their docks like obedient house cats. What's the project? He asked, crunching a chip loudly. Personal recalibration. That's vague. I am calibrating the resonance of my interface with local physics constants. Still vague. I am fine-tuning how I interact with this universe's rules. You're modding reality? Yes. Can I request flying toasters? No. Juno stepped closer, cautiously. So what's the real reason you're here, Meryl? I mean, I know what the rumors say, that you're scouting, preparing for something. But you've been quiet, cooperative. You haven't even threatened anyone in over a day. I am working. Working on what? She hesitated. Not long, but enough. I am no longer certain. Well, that's ominous. I am uncertain of my designation. Your title? My function. My purpose. He blinked. You're having an existential crisis? I do not know what that is. It's like when your brain files start throwing errors about why you're still doing what you're doing. Yes, that. He sat on an upturned crate. Happens to the best of us. I once questioned my entire existence during a 3-hour plumbing job in a zero-G bathroom stall. Meryl didn't respond. He tossed her the bag of crisps. She caught them without looking. You don't have to know yet, he said. Maybe just figure it out here for a while. No pressure, except for the part where Sarcastic 7 will hound you for recycling violations. I do not recycle. Then we'll blame it on the cat. She turned the bag over in her hands, inspecting it like it might explode. Juno leaned back. You ever just sit still and do nothing? I regenerate in stillness. That's not the same. I do not see the benefit. Sometimes it gives your brain time to surprise you. Her ears twitched. You are full of unexpected things. You say that like it's contagious. It might be. An alarm pinged from the upper console. Sarcastic 7's voice crackled through the speakers. Attention, anomalous gravitational surge detected near Bay 4B. Please remain calm while emergency bulkheads attempt to not crush you. Juno looked around. That you? Meryl narrowed her eyes. Possibly. Possibly is not what I like to hear when the walls are vibrating. I may have slightly destabilized the local tensor field. Could you slightly restabilize it? She lifted her hand. The air bent, and with a muted thump, the vibration stopped. Somewhere in the ceiling, a light bulb exploded in protest. The alarm cut off. Thanks, Juno said, standing. You do know that by being here, doing all this, you're making people nervous. I know. And you're okay with that? No. That surprised him. I came here because I was tired of being the monster in the corner of every room, she said. And yet, wherever I go, the room changes shape. Maybe you need a new kind of room. Is that another metaphor? Only if it sounds profound. She regarded him for a long moment, then reached into the chip bag, took one crisp and bit it. Her face didn't move, but she didn't spit it out either. Terrible, she said. Welcome to humanity. He grinned. She didn't, but her eyes were softer. Then her wristcom beeped. A sequence of symbols flickered across the display. An old sigil from her system. Her face changed. Not panic, not fear. Something colder. What is it? Juno asked. They found me. He frowned. Who? Those who fear change. Well, he said, standing up and dusting himself off. That sounds like an average Tuesday. She didn't reply, just stared at the symbols until they faded. Juno looked at the ceiling. Sarcastic 7 sent a request to security. Security is currently watching telenovelas. Should I interrupt? Yes. Very well. Alerting the overdramatic response team. Meryl didn't blink. They will not reach me in time. Juno picked up a wrench. Well, he said, guess that means I'm on the team now. You are not qualified. Story of my life. The lights dimmed. The station shifted slightly on its axis, the way a person might turn to face an incoming storm. Meryl looked at him one last time, and for the first time she smiled. Not much, but enough. The ship that arrived didn't knock. It slid into orbit above the station like a shadow deciding it was tired of lying still. It didn't broadcast, didn't hail, just sat there, the way a predator might sit across a clearing, licking its teeth in anticipation. The outer hull shimmered with that impossible shade of black that suggested a strong disapproval of stars. Sarcastic 7's voice came on over the comms, unusually calm. Good morning. We are now under the gaze of a vessel classified in 72 systems as a diplomatic contradiction. Please place your affairs in alphabetical order. Juno was halfway through rerouting power to emergency shielding when Meryl appeared beside him like a bad idea with good posture. They sent that ship, he said. Really? The Ghost of Devastation? It's been renamed, she said. To what? The Gentle Whisper. Juno stared. Seriously? They do not understand irony. Clearly. He double-checked the station shielding levels. You think they're here to talk? No. Can we at least try a fruit basket? They do not eat. Maybe they'd like a pamphlet on personal growth. Meryl moved to the viewport, watching the ship with the stillness of someone memorizing every flaw in its hull. Juno watched her instead, which was safer. They're not attacking yet, he said. They are waiting for me to speak. And if you don't, they will make assumptions. Well, that's never led to galactic-scale disasters. She didn't respond. You don't want to go back with them, do you? They do not offer return. They offer containment. You're not a weapon. They disagree. I'm not exactly a neutral observer here, he said, crossing his arms. But from where I'm standing, you're a person. Complicated. Scary, yes. Occasionally disintegrating, but a person. I was not born, I was built. You were also sipping lime pudding last week and rolling your eyes at my jokes. I don't think a photon torpedo launcher can do that. Meryl tilted her head slightly. They will not leave unless I go. What if we give them a reason? To leave? To fear us? A silence stretched between them. Then she said, You're a maintenance technician. I've duct-taped reactor cores in zero gravity during a magnetic storm. They will not be impressed by your resume. Then we improvise. They improvised. It began with Juno hacking Sarcastic 7's holodisplay settings to make the station appear slightly more military, which mostly meant replacing the decorative hanging plants with plasma coils and programming the vacuum bots to pace threateningly. Then Meryl interfaced with the station's outdated gravity shell, subtly adjusting the mass signature. From orbit, the station now looked like it might be storing a very large and very illegal energy source. You're bluffing, Juno said. Meryl didn't answer, just smiled. The Gentle Whisper reacted quickly. It shifted its orbit, recalculated trajectories, and sent its first and only transmission. A deep voice crackled over every speaker on the station. Protocol null entity, you are in violation of Containment Agreement 9 Theta. Stand down and prepare for retrieval. Meryl responded with 2 words, I refuse. The silence that followed could have stretched around a small moon. Juno, sitting in the comms chair with a cup of synth coffee, cleared his throat. Just for the record, is there a plan B? There is plan misdirection. That sounds like it includes exploding. It includes diversion. I knew it. You're going to use me as bait. You volunteered. Okay, yes, but not on purpose. She walked over to the console and tapped a sequence. A faint blue hum rippled through the station's framework. What was that? Cloaked ping, she said. I signaled a ship I stored in the asteroid belt. You have a backup ship? I have contingencies. You don't say. I did say. Juno blinked at her. Wait, So what's the actual plan? I exit the station before they deploy boarding units. Okay, good start. You fake a reactor leak. That feels very on brand for me. They will hesitate to enter. And then, I depart through the blind zone. That's not a plan that ends with a celebratory dinner. No, but maybe we both live. Maybe. Good enough. 10 minutes later, Sarcastic 7 announced a localized hull breach simulation in progress. Juno staggered through the corridors, clutching a gas mask, shouting incoherently about meltdowns and unsafe levels of sarcasm. Meryl vanished into the lower bay, trailing a wave of magnetic interference. Outside, the gentle whisper drifted closer, scanning aggressively. Then the interference spiked. Then the station disappeared from its scopes. From Juno's perspective, lying under a table in the cafeteria for authenticity, the whole place shuddered like someone had dropped it in a bucket of anxiety. Meryl's voice came over his personal comm. I am away. You sure? I masked my departure with your reactor leak. You're welcome. I may have also launched some debris coded to emit my signature. Also, you're welcome. I am not good at gratitude. That's fine. I'm not good at emotional boundaries. He exhaled, sitting up. So now what? They will search, but not here. You've made this place unpredictable. Flattery will get you everywhere. I will contact you when safe. Wait, that's it? No goodbye, no secret code phrase in case you're brainwashed later? There was a pause, then she said, You are beautiful. He blinked. That's, not what I was expecting. Neither was I. And then the line went dead. Outside, the gentle whisper slowly pulled away, like a disappointed parent reconsidering whether the kid really needed grounding after all. Juno lay there for a while, then opened a new report draft. Title, Incident Log, Diplomatic Success via Irrational Engineering and Emotional Recklessness. Status, classified. 3 months after the gentle whisper blinked out of orbit, the station's coffee machine finally stopped threatening people. Juno took that as a win. He was in the middle of fixing a jammed coolant regulator when Sarcastic 7's voice floated in over the intercom. Unscheduled vessel approaching. Scans indicate familiarity. Emotional preparedness is advised. He wiped his hands, glanced at the viewport, and frowned. The ship sliding into dock wasn't large, or armored, or ominously humming. It looked like someone had crossbred a courier shuttle with a luxury soap dispenser, painted bright teal. He muttered, either this is a midlife crisis in vehicle form, or... The airlock hissed. She stepped through like she'd never left. Same long ears, same unreadable gaze. But she wore civilian clothes now. A light jacket, well-fitted, clearly chosen. She had a bag slung over her shoulder, and if Juno wasn't imagining it, a barely visible scar under one eye. Not from combat, from living. He raised an eyebrow. You joined a band of spacefaring minimalists? I went to Nulis Prime. Isn't that the planet famous for its sentient moss and aggressive tea culture? Yes. And? The moss is overrated. The tea culture is lethal. I'll make a note not to visit. She walked in like the air had changed since she last breathed it. Looked around, touched the bulkhead, smiled. Just a little. I miss this place. It missed you too, especially the security system. It hasn't tried to arrest anyone since you left. Frankly, it's been a little bored. I brought it a present. She held up a small orb, pulsing softly. Quantum Riddle Drive. Keeps AIs busy with unsolvable questions. Perfect. Now I can sleep without it whispering, "What is love?" at 3 a.m. I also brought something for you, he blinked. Unless it's a box of regrets or a replacement spleen, I'm not sure how to react. She handed him a datapad. On it was a formal document, a new interspecies cooperation charter, one that named her as ambassador and Juno as a liaison. You want me to go? Where? Nowhere, she said. Not unless you want to. But the charter makes this station a neutral sanctuary, protected, open to species seeking respite or transition. He scrolled. You made this official? I made it real. He looked up. And what's your job now? I'm redefining. Still? Always. He laughed. You know, I used to think people didn't change. They just shifted furniture in their minds and called it a remodel. But then you showed up, wrecked everything, left, came back with actual chairs. She tilted her head. You're saying I'm interior decorating your soul. Exactly. I accept this responsibility. They walked together to the lower bay. It looked different now. Cleaner, organized, lined with modular science rigs and padded benches. It felt less like a war room and more like a workshop. I heard you've been working on a project, he said. 3, actually. One of them involves building a field generator that turns pain into music. That sounds terrifying and mildly catchy. He sat on the bench. So what's next? You stay here? Pop in between galactic peace missions? I haven't decided. Maybe that's okay. She nodded, then said, I've been reading humor files. Oh no. There's one I find resonant. Proceed with caution. She cleared her throat. A photon checks into a hotel. The clerk asks if he needs help with his luggage. The photon replies, No, I'm traveling light. Juno groaned. I walked into that. She smirked. And now you must carry the burden. I regret everything. They sat in the silence that followed, but it wasn't empty. It was full, like they were both listening to the same frequency now. Finally, he said, Do you think they'll come back? The ones who hunted me? Perhaps, but they won't find the same person. He looked at her. And what about me? You were never the same after you smiled. He smiled again, slower this time. Guess we're both recalibrating. She stood and looked out the window. In the distance, new ships were arriving, small ones, worn, carrying beings with tired eyes and hopeful hearts, looking for something they hadn't dared ask for before. Safety, solace, maybe even belonging. Juno stood beside her. They're gonna need welcome packets. I'll make tea. He raised an eyebrow. The safe kind, right? No promises. As the station turned slowly in its orbit, casting long shadows across the stars, they watched. Together. 2 points of change, one starting over, the other finally beginning. And somewhere between the silence and the laughter, the universe felt just a little less afraid.